The idea of giants has long fascinated scholars and amateur researchers across the globe. In the search for remains that could, once and for all, prove to the public that beings of great stature once walked the earth, unusual skeletons appear from time to time. The controversy discoveries of such remains, measuring 7 to 9 feet tall, have only further inspired this belief. Could a team of researchers working in Egypt have stumbled across compelling evidence that would suggest such giants once existed? Did they have come across the remains of an ancient Egyptian giant first discovered over a century ago? And what could this tell us about the ancient history of this part of the world? Join us in this video as we venture back to the prosperous era of the Dynastic Egyptians to explore one of their most unusual myths, centered on the Third Dynasty Pharaoh, who may have been a giant. Have there ever been giants? The search for giants is not a New Age phenomenon. Instead, such ideas extend back over thousands of years into the shadows of history. Greeks, Native Americans, the ancient Irish, and Hebrew people all speak of a time when the giants roamed the earth. People have traditionally exaggerated unfounded stories and tales in the search for proof that giants existed. Nevertheless, the controversial discoveries of skeletons measuring 7 feet to more than 9 feet tall and other artifacts have suggested to some that the truth inspired these legends. In the description of this video, you will find links to some of our videos that look at such finds in more detail. The existence of prehistoric giants is still a subject that causes excellent controversy among archaeologists and historians. If giants did exist, we should be able to find archaeological remains of these mysterious beings. But what was defined as giants today is not always the same as people did in the past. Interestingly, American President Abraham Lincoln once stated, inspired by the view of Niagara Falls, "The eyes of the species of extinct giants, whose bones fill the mounds of America, have gazed on Niagara, as ours do now, contemporary with the whole race of man, and older than the first man. Niagara is strong and fresh today as 10,000 years ago." But could we finally have evidence that a race of giants did once walk the earth? Not from Israel or Ireland, but from the sands surrounding ancient Egypt. The legends of Sa-Nakht, the giant. Researchers, Egyptologists, and giant hunters have long been fascinated by Egypt for various reasons, including the depictions of giants on various hieroglyphic carvings. With the etched stonework come legends of abnormal large beings who once roamed the land alongside the dynastic peoples, and one may have even served as a pharaoh during the Third Dynasty in 2700 BC. This is the story of Sa-Nakht, who some archaeologists believe could have stood anywhere between 6 and 8 feet tall, depending on who you ask. Sa-Nakht's identity and position in the Third Dynasty are unclear and remain a subject of debate today. His chronological position is uncertain, though it's thought likely reigned towards the beginning of the dynasty. Another vague mystery in which Hellenized name the ancient historian Menenthal could have listed him. While Sa-Nakht's existence attested by seal fragments from Mastaba K2 at Beit Caliph and Graphido, his position as the founder of the Third Dynasty, as recorded by the Turin Canon, has been seriously undermined by recent archaeological discoveries at Abydos. Presently, the dominant theory is that Sa-Nakht reign dates the late Third Dynasty, after the pharaoh Djoser. Egyptologists Toby Wilkinson, Stephen Siedlemeyer, Kenneth Kitchen and Rainer Staldemann equate Sa-Nakht with Nebka, a name appearing in Ramesside king lists. In support of this theory is a clay seal fragment on which the lower part of a cartouche appears. In this cartouche, Wilgeson, Seidlitzer, and Stadelmann see traces of Kasai, the end of the name Nebka. Now we would like to invite you to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Numerous theories have been proposed regarding the reign of Sa-Nakht, including the possibility that, as a member of a former ruling family, he suburbated the throne from the ruling family at the beginning of the dynasty. Thus, Djoser may have buried his father, Hashemi, and regained the throne from the usurper Sa-Nakht. Despite the hypothesis, today most contemporary documentary sources continue to identify Sa-Nakht with Nebka as the first king of Egypt's remarkable Third Dynasty, probably ruling from Thebes near Abydos. Very little is known about him, although his reign lasted about 18 or 19 years. Some researchers, however, attribute a much shorter reign of 5 to 7 years to him, which would allow a better correspondence with his reign before Djoser, since his reign is missing from the Palermo stone, an important source of information from this period of Egyptian history. We leave a link to our detailed video about this stone in the description. However, Nebka is mentioned in the Westcar Papyrus, the only large-scale construction leaving a trace that can be attributed to Sa-Nakht is at Beit Halaf, and that is the K2 mastaba. His name also appears on the island of El Fatina in southern Egypt near Aswan on a small pyramid. One of the few sources we have for this king is a sandstone relief fragment from Wadi Magara in the Sinai. It seems that he, together with Djoser, began in earnest to exploit the mineral wealth of the peninsula with its rich deposits of turquoise and copper. The relief depicts Sa-Nakht about to defeat the enemy wearing the red crown of Lower Egypt. We also know of a priest of the funerary cult of Nebka who seems to have lived during the reign of Djoser. Some Egyptologists continue to argue that he may have been the brother of his famous successor, Djoser, or if not that, perhaps his father, but contemporary opinion among Egyptologists does not seem to share this view. It has been suggested that his tomb at Saqqara is included in the steep pyramid of Djoser, although little real evidence points to this. With all of this controversy surrounding the ancient pharaoh, headway was made when archaeologists examined a mummy they discovered over a century ago, believing to be the remains of Sa-Nakht. Yet what they also learned is that the pharaoh was enormous compared to the Egyptians of the era, leading some to speculate he was, in fact, a giant. This makes experts now wondering, are giants more than just a myth after all? Logical breakdown of Sa-Nakht. According to the researchers who have inspected the remains of Sa-Nakht, he was notably tall for this era. The pharaoh was approximately 6 feet 2 inches tall, meaning he was at least 8 inches taller than the average Egyptian man of this era. The typical man living in Egypt was around 5 feet 2 inches tall during the Third Dynasty, according to the study's co-author, Michael Habicht, an Egyptologist at the University of Zurich's Institute of Evolutionary Medicine. So it's possible that the Egyptians living during this era looked to their pharaoh as a man of enormous proportions. Of course, most ancient Egyptian royals were better fed and in better health than the everyday Egyptians, so they would generally grow taller and live longer than the Egyptian commoners. However, the nearly 6 foot 2 inches remains of Sa-Nakht the scientists re-examined recently are almost 5 inches longer than the remains of Ramses II, the tallest record ancient Egyptian pharaoh, who lived more than a millennia after Sa-Nakht and was only about 5'9". Researchers measured King Sa-Nakht's skull and compared it with data from the anthropological databases. The study's results clearly show that while royal people were generally taller than common people, King Sa-Nakht was much taller than all the others. From all known royal mummies, no other king or queen fulfills the requirement of gigantism. Sa-Nakht suffered from medical condition. According to Francisco M. Galisi and his colleagues from the University of Zurich, Sa-Nakht's unusual height was the result of gigantism, a hormonal condition that results in abnormal excess of growth. If correct, this would be the earliest ever diagnosis of the condition. Other early skeletons have been diagnosed with acromegaly, and while both acromegaly and gigantism have a similar cause, acromegaly occurs in adulthood and gigantism occurs in childhood. In most cases, this occurs because of a tumor on the pituitary gland of the brain. Habit also comes to the following conclusion. The skeleton's long bones showed evidence of exuberant growth, which are clear signs of gigantism. If their diagnosis is correct, the alleged Sa-Nakht would be the oldest known paleopathological case of gigantism in the world. When speaking about what could have caused such degenerative issues, the researcher said, "In ancient times, no surgical or pharmaceutical treatment would be available. Therefore, regression could only have resulted from degeneration of the pituitary gland." In our modern era, while we may be amazed at a man who walks around at 6 foot 2 inches tall, it's unlikely that we would refer to the human as a giant. So the definition of the scientists give to describe Sa-Nakht is not compatible with what we would consider a giant today, but is based on a diagnosis of gigantism. In fact, he probably wouldn't have been tall enough to make a basketball team today. A typical NBA center stands at the 7-foot range. But could this help us in the search for giants? Could small groups of beings, each passing on a recessive gene that produce an excess amount of growth hormone, have lived in places around the world? Does this explain the legends of 9 and 10-foot giants who once roamed the world, according to many legends? Or are we still missing a part of the puzzle? Let us know what you think in the comment section below. As always, thanks for watching. See you all next time.